Danny.
Hi. Hey, Frank.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So let's talk. We have so much to do. I have to write a list. I have to write a list. You guys need a list? All right. So what else? Stop. Let's talk about everything that's coming up. This is the week. Oh, and where was snow left?
How was the snowstorm today?
Oh, I got about 8 inches on average, but in the front of the driveway, it's always piled up from the snow plows. So,
Yeah, always.
but eight was reasonable because they
Yeah,
said it was going to be up to 12.
yeah,
So, and I got my snow blower working, so I was able to use that. I hadn't used it for 2 years, and I tried to start it up on Wednesday night to make sure it worked, and there was bad fuel in there and wouldn't start. So I went on YouTube, figured out how to empty the gas and put new gas in there, and then Thursday night I got it working.
right. I did a classic. Again, it's been 2 years, right, since I used it. I found out I put the wrong gas in the,
Uh-oh.
so I had to drain it all. But
Yeah.
I got it to work.
Yeah, exactly. I had to drain it just to get rid of the bad gas.
Right.
Oh, okay. Maybe Owen should hold it for like 3 minutes, and then Peyton should hold it for 3 minutes. How does that sound? All right, I'll put a timer on my phone. So Owen, it's your turn right now, okay? Let me get the timer going. Hold on. All right, Owen, are you ready? Because I'm gonna put the timer on, and then we switch to the paint. Tell me when you're ready, Owen. You ready? Okay, Owen's on the timer. Owen, your turn first. Oh, what is this? Like a helicopter?
I wonder why I see my name twice.
Oh,
Oh, there it goes. Rich. For a minute it was my name.
You got an airplane, okay, and then. Okay, oh, and hold the phone, I can't see, honey, I'm seeing like a light. Okay, here, I'm good. Okay, good. I couldn't even see. And then, oh, and show me Snowy.
Are we expecting Jerry tonight? I haven't heard that he wasn't.
He's on. He's right here, Town of Ground. He was on first, and I guess he just, there he is.
Oh, yes.
Just trying to get the minutes and stuff like that as updated. So it's
Oh,
a little less
perfect.
distracting.
I told him you were here.
Jim, just making you aware of that.
Oh, yeah, oh,
One more makes a quorum here, I think.
I wouldn't expect Larry. He lives next door to me and he's been gone since about 3 o'clock this morning. So shoveling or plowing.
Porsche might come.
oh, nice. You have a nice warm fan and boat. Oh, marshmallows, your favorite. Wow. What do you guys have for dinner? Have hot like 30 seconds and then it's painting turn color.
You know, Bruce, I shaved my beard off,
Okay.
and but I saw the commercial today for the stuff you can comb in it to get rid of the gray.
Oh, really? I certainly could use that. I was thinking of getting rid of it just because of the white, you know, like I'm not old enough to have the white, so
All right.
you get rid of it. But, hey, send me a text, will you?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, there's another. Ready?
If you keep it all shaved off and wear a hat, no one knows.
When I had my knee replacement like two or 3 years ago, I had a cane. I had to walk with a cane for a while, and I had to get rid of this because I'm like, oh, the old guy with like the white and the cane. I'm like, I had to shave
They'll
it
help you
off.
across the street.
It's terrible. But I'm not vain at all. So
Are those all your actions?
I like the way Chad giggles. He'll get there. Yeah. Chad, sons or daughters?
3 boys.
Oh, good for you, because the girls do it. That's it. I blame my daughter for every gray hair.
Yeah, I blame them for the loss that's coming down the sides.
Let me just jump out of here, and I'm going to check my email and see if we have somebody else.
Should have added Rich to the task force. He's always on.
No, I don't have any other emails other than Jim with his hard stop at 9.
9. I hope we're finished by 9.
Did everybody get the attachments that Chad sent out, or that I forwarded from Chad? With the
Yes.
updated
Very
slides?
nice looking.
Oh, I see it.
Very professional. I like the pictures of the comparing our facilities to the other schools. It really paints the right picture.
Those were all Jerry. Jerry went around and got them all.
Yeah, no, those good examples.
Was that kind of the differences between the two presentations, Chad?
There was a few slides that I added in. And as we go through it, I can tell you which ones they were. I mean, there was a bunch of pictures, obviously, that got added in, and there was a few text slides of some of the stuff that the committee said they wanted to add into it, that I kind of sprinkled in, and we can talk about the order and if it's the right order, if they should be moved around at all. But I can show you where I put them in.
Nice. Oh, so let's talk about the cookie. So I'm gonna make you cut this weekend.
Hey, just in the interest of time, so when you guys refer to ball fields, do you mean baseball fields or baseball, softball fields, or both? Or the term ball fields is confusing to me. And I don't know if it would be confusing to other people.
It could very well be, so we should probably, it depends on, when we get to that slide, well, let's look at wherever it is that's confusing you and make sure we clarify which one we mean.
It's a couple of times in here, it says 3 ball fields, and I just don't know if we need to clarify whether it's baseball, softball, or a combination or what.
All right, that's probably in the history stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first couple of slides. And that at that point, if memory serves, those were all baseball fields. The level of service from 2009 was baseball, and then again in 2014 it was also baseball. So we can change those.
So Frank, I guess, you know, here we are at, you know, I don't know, at what point do you want to, you know, get started and just go through it? If whatever we do here tonight, we can talk about it, but you know, we can't have a meeting until one more person shows up. So you can either, you know, sit around here and wait, or you can begin to go through it, and, you know, we'll do it kind of unofficially, and it won't be no minutes or anything. And
No, I agree. I think we should start going through it, and hopefully someone will join, and then we can start the meeting and continue if you would officially. But definitely, I think we should go through the presentation. I wasn't able to, I'm at home, so I wasn't able to print the new one, but I have the old one in front of us, so
okay.
that's good.
Well, this is it. Everybody can see the screen, correct? Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, the first one, you got the date right here, Chad. So
I was doing it from memory and I was like, sometime in there. I don't remember yet, but yes, I agree. What is the right date?
it is the 12th,
All right,
January 12th.
January 12th. All right. So I guess we can run through slide by slide. I'll try to do it quickly. I threw in, so this was kind of what formed the task force, right? This is what brought us to be, and the fact that the town council charged us with doing this, and how the task force was formed. I don't think we should spend any really much time on it at all. It's just to remind them, obviously, that they were the ones that set this up. Does that make sense? Should we keep it in or get rid of it?
I think it's good.
Okay.
I say keep it in.
All right.
Hey, Chad, I don't know if it needs to be on the slide, but is part of that voiceover the fact that what we were not charged with was how to pay for them? Just to remind them up front that that wasn't part of the remit. Because I know that question is going to come up from the town council, right?
Yeah, we could, let's see your task force. Yeah, I mean, on that, our charge, we could note something that, you know, something of those effects that.
I don't know if we need to note it. I guess my point is like, I assume, Chad, you're going to present these to the town council. Is that
I
the plan?
can,
Yeah.
yeah. And Frank is nodding, so. Yeah,
So I think my point would just be making sure we note that we want to, maybe
Okay.
we want to voice over, but if others disagree, that's fine. That was just my thought on this one.
Oh, I think that's a great comment.
Can you
Then
just go back to the first slide, please? Because it kind of affects a couple of it should be athletic fields.
All right.
And that goes on to the second slide too.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so you have your hand up there, Lisa. So
So we can lower it.
I'm gonna have to. I can't, when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see what's kind of going on in the lobby or whatever. So I hope,
Okay.
you know, if we notice that somebody else shows up, I gotta stop, and then we can have our meeting. So. So yeah, Chad, I guess just replace all.
I can add the S to the fields. Yep.
Find
Then
athletic-
the next two slides are just the summary of the history. That's the task force. Yeah, I don't plan on spending any time, or I don't think we should spend any time on them. I just wanted them, if they have a packet, right, if they print this out, I want them to have the history in their hands. But we'll just skip through it real quick in the presentation.
Chad, on the 2014, this impact is annually. You know, that might be it's not like a total, it's an annual.
All right. All right. So then what I did is the methodology. I don't think this has changed. Basically, I feel this is what the process we went through. We updated the participation numbers, or Jerry really did the updated participation numbers. We then updated the needs assessment. We interviewed everybody. We identified the commonalities between the different groups that we talked to. We then kind of summarized what we thought we needed for fields, presented to the user group, presented to the public, and now we're finally hitting the final step of presenting to the council. This hasn't changed. This was our needs assessment update. Same thing with that, no change. This was kind of the summary that I think was a bunch of points that several of us had talked about. This is my attempt to get them in here. And please feel free to correct, my takeaway kind of at the end of it was, it might actually be worse than we all thought. We all jumped on this committee because we all knew there was a problem, right? But we all probably knew there was a problem in the set fields that we each use. But I know my eyes have been opened up a little bit more that it's actually, and from my opinion, it's worse than I thought it was. So I don't want it just to be my opinion. I think we should all agree that if that's true or not. If it's not, we can take it off of here. I then noted the significant equity issues, the gender equity issues, the ADA equity. I put educational access in here as well, just because of the busing to practice, everything we've talked about with kids having to leave campus for the high school and what that does to educational access. And then the access to support facilities that most fields don't have. Kind of the note that even our good fields need work, right? The eye opener to me was the baseball field at the high school, where I'm still thinking that was just done, even though it was quite a few years ago, and it needs work. The no investment in 20 plus years, despite the need, right? I think Park and Rec, as well as several groups, have been in front of different town councils for the last 20 years saying there was a need, and no investment has been made. And then the point that Groton is significantly behind all of our surrounding towns.
Before you leave that slide, what do you mean by, can you clarify what support facilities, access to support facilities means?
All the normal ancillaries, the restrooms, scoreboards, bleachers. At the high school, it would definitely be the field house.
Yeah, that's what I thought it meant, but I just want to make sure.
Should we say it?
I don't know if you need to say that in a different way, because some people may not be thinking that along those lines.
I think your word ancillary was a good word. Or give a couple of examples of what you mean by.
Yeah, in
support.
parentheses, maybe concession stands, restrooms. something
Okay.
like
And on that other one where it says our good fields, I think maybe adding the word existing between our and good
Okay.
might make that a little clearer.
Mhm.
And the other thing we may want to think about is that next to last bullet where it says no investment in 20 plus years despite the need, if it would set some people back to say, well, we invest in maintenance cost for some of these fields. So we're talking about capital investments in like major bucks, but I'm just thinking about from the council perspective, like where is that money going to maintain the fields? So I just want to be careful with that wording maybe.
Yeah, and I would agree. It's a little bit stark because we did just build a turf field at the middle school, right?
Right.
So I don't, but we essentially before that haven't built anything new since Pequannock Plains,
No.
with
I'm
the
just-
exception of now the school projects.
Yep, I'm just trying to put on my council hat to see where they may may come back with sort of commentary, and that's maybe
Should we
something that-
call it like no
Capital investment.
yeah, maybe capital or
no major investment? Or
yeah,
no?
significant or
significant.
major, something like that. Yeah.
This hasn't changed. The user group meetings at the ball fields, who we talked to and what came out of it.
So this is the point on what's a ball field.
Well,
This is both, though, right?
this was technically both ball fields, but there was the 3 full-size baseball. So at the end was no softball, or softball is sufficient, basically was what we had. Youth softball, thanks, that already is there. Yeah, youth softball was sufficient, high school softball was not. So this is something this really hasn't changed. However, in some other places, I've started to change it from calling them rectangle fields to multi-use fields. And a lot of times when we're designing stuff, we kind of refer it to as rectangle because of a particular use or a particular size. But I just, from a public perspective or a public perception or even the council perception, rectangle probably doesn't allude very much, and a multi-use obviously sound, it alludes to all the different teams that can play on one field. So
I would agree. I think
Yeah, me too.
multi-use is a much more mainstream term than
Yep.
rectangle.
Yeah, I love that term.
so I'll go through and change all the rectangles to multi-use. Otherwise, that slide didn't change. So then this was kind of the summary of meeting with the high school, the current, and then I was just going to talk briefly about the current conditions that put the aerial photo next to it. So you have the football field that needs, as we've identified, significant work. It was funded in the CIP last year, and that work has been held off of because of this project. The track and field, we talked about it needing resurfacing in the near future. I don't know what the timeline is for that, if we want to say 5 to 10 years or whatever it might be.
All right, tell Owen I'll call him tomorrow.
It was done in 2010, right around there.
Okay.
And they're usually 15 years as far
Right.
as that kind of,
Okay. So, I mean, we could, do we want to say resurface in the near future or resurface in 5 to 10?
yeah.
I think 10's a stretch.
Okay, well, that's where, again, I haven't really assessed it, so I'm not out there every day. You guys definitely know it better than I do. So if we want to say resurface in 5 years, that
Rich,
puts it
Rich, would
in
you,
line with this project.
You're maybe within 5 years, right?
Yeah. I would say, something like, to give them a range, 4 to 5 years, something like that.
Okay.
It would need to be done.
Well, one additional question perhaps on the current conditions. Do we want to highlight the fact that we lack a softball field and we lack soccer facilities? So the current conditions are also that they're lacking from a high school perspective.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Or maybe say no softball field, when you're talking about the softball field, no softball field on campus.
So
Right.
I think it just
Oh, yeah. it's
a
just-
thing that makes the point is that, the high school sports that can't be held at the high school are now located off-site, at various locations. So that's kind of the blanket statement. Yeah, there's no softball field, but there's no practice field. There's a lot of no's, but you could go by sport, field hockey, lacrosse, soccer, softball, baseball, all of those sports happen off campus. That's the point. It's not, I don't know that listing the specific facility, but just listing that all those sports are off campus.
Well, maybe we should make a slide that says these sports are off campus,
I would agree. I think we list all of the teams that have to travel off campus.
currently off campus.
Yeah.
The other thing, Chad, is it says in one of them, a football field needs significant work. In baseball, it says needs field work. So like you're more specific with baseball? I don't know, do we want to say what kind of work, or do we want to just say needs field work? Or you know what I'm saying?
So I'll defer to you a little bit on that for sure. My impression was that, the bleachers there are in very good condition. The support amenities, the dugouts, the press box appear to be in decent shape. It's the field that I think, from what I heard, the field is what needs to be assessed. We need to look at it and decide, is the turf in good enough condition? We just need to top dress it, or do we need to rip up all the sod, all the infield, and regrade everything? So but you see it every day. So, I guess maybe it's an equal.
I haven't seen baseball played on it yet. Yeah, well, the point I was trying to make was it's like one of them you say needs field work, and the other one it just says needs significant work. So I don't know if we want to get more detailed or less detailed in the other one, or just, I don't know.
I guess.
Because you're talking about, when you say the bleachers, that's more of an amenity more so than the field itself.
Right. My opinion of the football field is everything needs to be done.
Yeah.
Right. All the support facilities.
Yeah. The bleachers, the press box,
Right.
everything.
Right. There's more work that, the surface of the field needs to be done for sure, but all the rest of the support stuff needs to be done as well. And so in my mind, without really looking at it, I was assuming that the football field needs more work than the baseball field from a financial investment perspective. That could be wrong. I might be wrong because we haven't really assessed the turf quality of the baseball field. But that's where I guess I was trying to, and I was a little nervous of saying, if we call the baseball field saying it needs significant work at this point, I think people will be, I guess maybe I'm easing them into the idea that we need to spend money there, as opposed, like everybody, me included, felt like, hey, we just spent, there was $1 million that was just spent on that field. It should be in decent shape. But I'm happy to go either way, whatever you guys want to do.
Needs maintenance, needs field maintenance work. I don't know.
Just to clarify, and I know people have been throwing out that $1 million figure. It was $650,000, and it was not town money, and
Right.
most of it went into the lights, the bleachers, the press box. It did not go into the field.
But, and I
So-
think Rich, I think it's a great point, and I think that's what, public perception, including my own, right, is I rounded up to the million because I probably heard it somewhere, and I imagined it was the entire field, right? And even though I know the architect that designed the dugouts and all, I know the guys that did the work, but in my head it was the whole field. So that's where I think it needs to be on the list, and we need to probably clarify it. Other things, the 6 tennis courts, they're in great shape. You guys just redid them, they look great. And then the practice area, I also said that needed significant work. Even though there was money spent there recently, it just, it feels like we're just throwing money away because everything underneath of it is so inefficient. So anyways.
Chad, should you call that the football practice area? So everybody knows what you're talking about? Or
I
don't think anybody else practices there, do they? Band does sometimes, maybe.
Well, it's used just by the 2 sports. It's used, 3 sports. It's used by football in the fall, and then track and field, boys and girls in the spring.
Okay.
And that's the only teams that ever use it.
Should I call it football practice area / track and field?
Sure.
All right.
Field events.
Field events. All right. Anything else on that one? So then these are the, aerials from surrounding, talking about Ledyard. Obviously this aerial was taken before the new field was just put in, but they changed from a straight football field with a track to a synthetic multi-use field. They modified the track to fit it. And then they have the baseball field, 2 baseball fields, it looks like, softball field, practice area, 2 practice areas. Technically, they have a soccer field there beside the Burton property baseball field. And then they have a football practice area up there.
Is that 2 softball fields side by side down there?
One's a youth one. So
Oh, okay.
and I don't know if anybody has seen it. I graduated from Ledyard, but when I was there, that upper baseball field was a softball field right there.
This field was in tough shape.
That's in tough shape?
Yep, and this one is in tough shape too.
Okay, but does it look like they're playing baseball on both those two baseball? Okay, all right, so they must have changed that at some point.
This is the one on the bottom is their baseball field, right? The lower of that one. That's their baseball field.
That must be their varsity. I mean, that's always been the good fields. That must be the varsity
Yeah,
field. The other one must be the JV field.
The one, yeah, the one up above is next to the track is the JV and freshman field.
Okay.
And
Or
that
Definitely
practice
not
area,
softball.
they use that, track and field uses that for their throwing area.
Yeah,
on the
that's
other
where
end of
they,
the track.
they throw up there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then next to it, we've got Stonington with their synthetic turf track, synthetic turf multi-use field, the full track around it, full-size baseball, full-size softball, and then 4 practice fields, basically 4 multi-use practice areas. So they have 2 up top, 2 down below. They've got the 6 tennis courts, you know, so again, significantly more assets on campus than us. Then looking at Waterford, you've got the new, very new, it's only about a year and a half, 2 years, well, maybe almost 3 years old, the synthetic turf multi-use field, the new track, brand new grandstands, everything surrounding it, awesome facilities from a concessions, restroom area. They've got the baseball right there, and then right next to it is actually a brand new synthetic turf softball field that was just put in a year ago. And then they've got their 2 practice areas down there next to that. And they also have 6 tennis courts up there. And then East Lyme has got the, again, same thing, synthetic multi-use field surrounded by a track. Very good amenities. Their track and field, the field events, you know, get tight where they have them, they make it work, but they've got some off the backside. Yep, up there,
Yep.
and then some off to the, what would that be, the west of the field.
They throw the shot to the west, and then the discus and the javelin is up there next to the tennis courts.
By the tennis courts, yeah. Then they've got the full-size baseball. They've got a full-size practice. Yep, 2 practice fields and a full-size softball. Again, very comparable to what we're talking about Fitch needing.
And a swimming pool.
And a swimming pool. That is true.
Aquatic center.
And that is very busy all the time, not just by high school athletics, not by the swim teams, but by the amount of youth programs they run through there.
They actually make money off of that facility, actually.
Big time.
They run it all day, and
Yep. Jack Stahlbach, yeah, the guy that used to run it, Jack, you know, that was they hired him as a full-time, that was his job, was running that as basically a money-making venture for the town. So this is the field house at Fitch. Jerry took some pictures of the outside. We got the showers inside, you know, and it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's 2 male locker rooms, right? Isn't there one for home and away, or is it just one team, one locker room? Just one.
Just one locker room. Football uses it in the fall, and the boys track team uses it in the spring. There's no
Okay.
facilities for females.
I knew there was nothing
At
for
all.
females, but for some reason I thought there was 2-sided for home and away, but it's all home, all football.
I'm reliving 1979 when I see that shower. It has not changed.
Yep, and then we've got the
They
team
got the
meeting
same
room,
showers.
yep, the training room, and the coaches
Sub-base.
spots.
Awful.
Then we have the best ever, man. The public restrooms, you know, and I'm all for like team spirit and all that, but this gets to be a little bit excessive. And then, you know, the men's restroom there, it's awesome when you can be standing at a urinal and have the door wide open and see straight in to 3 people taking a leak.
Well, how about there's not even the dividers between the urinals? You might as well go to Fenway Park and use the trough.
Use a trough. At least a trough is around the corner from the door. This one, you open the door and you might as well just pee outside.
I'm not sure
and-
where the women go.
Oh, the same place in the
Yeah.
urn. No, I'm kidding.
Then we
You know-
did throw down there in the corner is the porta potty that was, just put in by the middle school. So again, awesome field. We don't want to be knocking it, but that was, that's the extent of what we got. Neighboring facilities, this is obviously East Lyme, New London, Ledyard, Stonington, all have much newer, much nicer support facilities.
We didn't have Jerry, we didn't have any pictures of New London's field because I know they have 2 turf fields there, right?
Oh, you're right.
I don't know if Chad didn't do it. He added these aerials, so
Oh, okay.
I guess we can add in New London, but yeah, they have 2 turf, and then they're also using Bates Woods and stuff. So I guess it's a matter of how much do you want to show, I guess.
Well, maybe in a graph or some way to show that everybody else has a turf field at the high school,
Well, and that may be just something that we say,
including New London. I mean,
That's
which
true.
people
Well,
don't do.
I think we throw New London. I had it in there, so I must have, at one point I had East Lyme twice. So my guess is I must have moved East Lyme on top of New London and then somehow deleted it. But I agree, we should add it in because they have the most synthetic turf fields of all towns.
It's interesting because their Bates Woods is much like we're doing with Sutton Park. I
It
mean,
is.
it's a town property that they use as for their high school fields.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
their
they have-
softball field is there, their baseball field is there. It's beautiful. I mean,
And the walks connect right to it, so it functions as a high school property, even though technically it's part of the park.
right.
Kind of continuing on through the support amenities. This is the press box. Not in great shape. These are the surrounding town press boxes, significantly better. Do we want to spend much more time other than just showing the pictures?
I think that picture right now shows the, how difficult it would be for wheelchair access or anything.
This is the one that kind of drives me nuts,
Yeah.
because it doesn't meet code on so many levels. You've got from a pavement facility, you got nothing flat and smooth. You got curbs. You have no ramp up. The
Not to mention-
handrails, the steps, none of it meets code.
Not to mention the hill behind it.
Yeah,
The slope of the
just to
hill
get down there, you're right. I mean, just to get down there is one thing, but if you were smart enough to be able to know you can drive your car down there and drop somebody off for ADA access, even when you get here, there's nowhere to go. And they just, nothing about those bleachers even remotely is close to code. They just look exactly like they've been for the last 60 years. And they're just dangerous. The neighboring ones that we got, obviously all brand newer fields. They've all got the backs to the benches. They've got the ADA walks, ramps. They've got all the correct fall protection around them. And Jerry did take a picture of the Fitch baseball stadium. So, that is one of our own and it is done correctly. But we need it, down at what should be the multi-use field as well. So then this is where we kind of had listed all the different sports teams. I think if we list the teams that aren't playing on campus, it won't, I'll just leave these on the screen, but won't talk about them. And then below all the bullet points are what, we heard from the high school is the needs.
The only thing when I was looking at the slides earlier, I didn't see was the lights at the middle school field. Is that mentioned anywhere in any of the slides?
It's mentioned further down in our
Okay.
recommendation. It's not mentioned as part of the high school stuff. Yeah, it's something to consider as to where do we bring it up ahead of time.
Chad, when you're mentioning the sports, like you're mentioning baseball, there's actually 3 baseball teams. When you're talking men's and women's soccer, there's 2 of each of those. Same
Yes.
thing with lacrosse. So, that certainly adds to I don't know if you put the numbers in there or something to emphasize that, it's not just one baseball team, not just one soccer team, and so on.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. I think we should probably make that more obvious.
Vin or Rich, I guess one of you, could you just email me or Chad the
Sure.
list of how many teams there are and what sports they are?
Will
Just-
do.
Yeah, like field hockey, I don't know if there's, JV and varsity or
There is, yeah.
anything like that. All right. So yeah, that'd be good. Then we'll include that on one. Maybe we'll make that its entire own slide and then follow up with the bullet points underneath of it. So this is what we had kind of as a group come up with as our identified needs. I don't really like that title, so I'm open to suggestions on if we should call it something better than that. But this was when we kind of coalesced everything after talking to all those different groups. This was the list that we came up with, the list that Jerry had put together that we've all now agreed on. So this is where it's the addition of the lights, the restroom, storage, scoreboard, bleachers at the middle school, upgrading everything at the multi-use field, at the football field, the baseball field, four full-size multi-use fields. This is where, and then 2 full-size baseball, the intermediate baseball, 2 full-size softball fields, and 2 additional tennis courts at the high school.
Pat, if you change the baseball field to baseball field surface, would that help your, we were talking earlier about because really you're talking about the surface of the baseball field or the base. So when you say the word baseball field, I picture everything, right?
Everything.
So, right, that's what I picture versus you're trying to actually fix the
Playing
surface of the field or the.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard me, Chad. I was thinking playing surface, perhaps.
Playing surface. All right.
Playing
like
surface,
it.
perfect,
Like it.
perfect. Yeah, good.
All right. So then this is a slide we'd all talked about adding in the concerns from the synthetic turf. So I noted that we got the letter from the Groton Conservation Association, and that basically I'm summarizing it, but I'm assuming that I don't know if we give a copy of it or if we just note that we received it, but summarizing to me, they had health concerns over the crumb rubber and they had environmental concerns over the adding of the plastic to the environment. Right, that was my kind of, I'm summarizing obviously a long statement in public as well as a long letter, but those were the 2 big takeaways from my opinion. Does anybody think we should add anything more to that? All right.
I don't think our recommendations from a turf perspective for synthetic turf would be the crumb rubber though, right? When we think about what we did for the middle school.
So I don't think we should answer that yet. I mean,
Okay,
what I'm saying down below is that there are options.
Yep.
But, well, so I gave the bullet point there, the Connecticut Health Department, they have studied this quite a bit, and they're not the only ones. Obviously, a lot of other states, including California, a lot of other countries have all studied it. And the Connecticut Department of Health put out a little PDF kind of sheet that they can give the towns, and their summary is they've done all this research. They found no reason for concern for health concerns. That the data isn't there for health concerns. Now, they of course leave the door open. They're open to study it again. They're open, this is the data that we know of right now, right? And the crazy thing about, and I'm not a toxicologist, but you can have chemicals that are bad for you in close proximity to you, and it doesn't become toxic. Toxicity is when you get exposed to, great amount of levels. Some chemicals, obviously a very low level can be toxic. Other chemicals, a whole high level, it takes a lot before they become toxic.
Sure.
The interesting thing that, they did find through their studies is that outdoors on the synthetic turf, the crumb rubber seems to have no concerns. Indoors, when it's an ice, when it's all kept in and enclosed, they found a little bit more of readings that, it could possibly lead to a health concern, although it didn't even get to the level to where they wanted to do additional studies. It just was a higher reading than what was outdoors. But all that information is out there, and anybody with questions and concerns, I think, should go look at it. And on the Department of Health website, they also just, every other state that's done studies, they just have a whole bunch of information there for people to go through. So, so I think we can definitely say there are multiple infill options available. I'm not sure, my personal opinion, the coconut fiber, I'm not sold on it personally. I think it's going to be a maintenance issue, right? It's a natural surface, a natural material. It's going to break down and disintegrate and turn into organic matter inside the turf at some point in time. And the worst thing for synthetic turf fields is organic matter in them, right? Like when you get leaves, you know, we like to put trees all the way around our fields so that they get, you know, it slows down the wind and the breeze and you don't get all the sun beating down on it. But in the fall, when all the leaves drop, it's a huge mess. You know, leaves on synthetic turf are a nightmare because you have to get them up. You have to get them up and get them off. You can't just mow them and mulch them and bag them. You know, so, and the reason is you're trying to get all that stuff out so it doesn't get down into the synthetic turf. So, so there are multiple options. I just think that's a longer discussion that we should have and not just jump right to the conclusion that, you know, I think it was the easiest way to get the synthetic turf in at the middle school because there were questions about it, but it might not have been accurately and fully debated, I guess is how and I wasn't part of it, so I don't know. And if in the end, if the town wants to do it, great, but I know it's a $300,000 upcharge, right? So if we talk about $1 million field, when you go to put in, you know, coconut fiber instead of chrome rubber, it's now a $1.3 million field. So there are pros and cons, but I think there's a lot of issues that need to be discussed before we decide one or the other.
I'm wondering, Chad, if we shouldn't like take the word concerns off and just say synthetic turf discussion or synthetic turf, and then just say, you know, that, and you can kind of keep the stuff that you have there, but you know, it kind of takes the negative connotation away from the whole discussion. It just says, you know, we're in looking at synthetic turf, here's the stuff that we're looking at, not necessarily their concerns, but just need to be.
Yeah, I guess I labeled it concerns because we were addressing the concerns from the conservation group, but maybe it's better to not title the slide that. And
Yeah, for them, it's definitely a concern. We don't want to maybe look at it that way.
Maybe we just, for the title, we say something along the lines of we've listened to feedback from, you know, from the community on synthetic turf or something along those lines. Just kind of make it sort of a statement, you know, or we, you know, so that instead of the concerns, maybe it's just we've heard the feedback from synthetic turf, or we've gathered feedback on synthetic turf, something along those lines.
Okay. All right.
One other thing you might consider is taking this slide and maybe not having it right in the middle of the presentation, so that people don't all of a sudden become hung up on this and then don't listen to the rest of the, you know, presentation, maybe moving this towards the end or at the end. So as part of the conclusion.
I agree. It's a good point to talk about. I kind of put it close to the end. I didn't want to end on this.
Right.
Right. But so basically where I put it was after we say, this is what our recommendations are, right? This is the list of all the fields we need, and we're recommending synthetic turf. Then so it's kind of the first time we're seeing synthetic turf. Then I was throwing this in to say, hey, we had some concerns raised by the public. We've done some due diligence. We as a task force still feel that it's, you know, that we can recommend the use of synthetic turf. And then from there, we go through kind of the property by property of what fields we, you know, propose where. So that's kind of why I try to deal with it as soon as we said synthetic turf, deal with it there, and then get on to the rest of it and not let it be a negative at the end of the presentation or perceived negative.
Yep, good point.
Chad, one thing I would, you know, the usability of the fields, you know, we've got the bullet 1/3 more fields that synthetic isn't used.
Yeah.
Also that synthetic fields can be used in all weather. So, you know, we don't have the weather cancellations or whatever even.
Yep, good point.
Yeah, and all those things on, like those things at the bottom, they're not concerns, right? Like
Correct.
if there's more
They're
fields
not.
of synthetic, it's not a concern. It's just, it's kind of, you know, it's part of the whole discussion. So
Yeah, I think the title's more like synthetic turf discussion, you know, because That's the word Bruce just used is perfect.
I agree. Yep. So is everybody, and I assume, I mean, all the votes we took were to continue with synthetic turf. So that's why I took the liberty to say we're still, as a group, recommending continuing with it. So the only thing that changed here was I put in the word multi-use for the stadium field and multi-use for the two, what we were calling rectangles. That's the only thing that changed there. Sutton Park, nothing changed on this slide. Claude Chester, same thing. I changed the two full-size multi-use, but otherwise nothing else changed. And then nothing changed on this slide.
So back to Claude Chester, I like the last bullet, that little Claude Chester property would become, because I think that's it's a really important part of this. I mean, you're trying to make this a hub for, and I love the fact that host tournaments, we have to drive that home. That's part of why it's going to be perfect.
Yep, I agree. Yep, no changes on this one. No changes on this one. Yep, no changes.
Could I make a potential recommendation just on the labels? The unlighted skinned SB. I wonder if for the council, if we just need to call them softball fields.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about getting into that discussion, if you will.
Yeah, no, it probably makes sense. This is again terminology from probably 6 years ago.
Why do the softball fields have to be skinned and the other ones?
Yeah.
I think other than that was my only thought. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that was like literally I came out. That was like 6 years ago, and I think it was because there were a couple of softball fields that were.
Right.
There were some that were skinned and some that were unskinned. There were some softball fields playing with an infield, and that's why we made the distinction forever ago. But yeah, I agree. All right. Then this is just the summary. And again, I think the only change I made was to call out multi-use instead of rectangle.
So, Chad, I'm not seeing the Groton Middle School lights. Was that supposed to be on one of these?
It was at the it should be, man, you know what? Maybe we should add it to that one. It is at the very beginning of our recommendations, but it's not there on the summary. All right, so keep going up. It's, I think, the one above the synthetic turf.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
It's that one bullet point is the only time, so it might be worth putting that as a piece at the bottom too. On that one, right?
Yep.
It's just a pretty full slide, but we'll shove it in there we'll put a new heading for the middle school and all the amenities.
Chad, when you talk about renovate the stadium field, can you put multi-use in there somewhere so they understand that would be a multi-use field?
Yes, good point.
And it's almost like it's two additional full-size multi-use fields. So they've got to understand that we're going to renovate the stadium track and field and make it a multi-use field, and we're going to add two full additional somehow.
Yep.
You can.
All right. And then this was kind of our final slide. The next steps, as far as I see them and what we've talked about is first is council and school board endorsement is what I said. Then it's the Park and Rec department has a CIP request that they're in the process of putting together. It'll be part of the next budget to do the field study and design.
So Chad, I did see your email.
Yeah.
On that, and if I need to update that number, I guess I think I still have an opportunity to get that in.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might be something to have a call about maybe tomorrow or something, or if Mark has any questions too. But come up with whatever that number should be, and get that so that it's correct for the budget. Then the way I see it going is that we do conceptual and design development through probably most of 2021, because in reality, the budget doesn't get passed till sometime in spring, or late spring. Then by the time you go out for public bidding and all that sort of stuff, you've lost half the year before anybody started doing work. By the time you get a little bit of it done and we start identifying what the actual fields are and what they're likely to cost, that's where I'm saying that sometime around Q3 of next year is when it really, by then we really need to have identified the funding, right? Town council has either decided, it's bonding, it's CIP, it's some special project, it's grants, it's a school project, whatever it is, that we should have an idea of what we think the whole thing is going to cost, and we should start identifying whether there's funding is coming through by Q3 of next year. Assuming it's all a go and everybody's all happy, then you do your construction documents starting end of next year, going into the middle of 2022. Ideally doing construction starting towards middle to the end of 2022, finishing in 2023, and hopefully we have fields to use by 2024.
So hang on here. If I can call Frank, he just lost his laptop. He texted me, so I'll see if I can just get him on speakerphone here and he can still enjoy our conversation. Frank?
I'm just trying to get back in. That's all.
Okay, so I have you at speakerphone here while we're waiting there, Frank.
Okay.
Right, so go ahead, Chad.
Yep, so that's kind of how I see, it's optimistic. That's probably the best case scenario, but I think it's worth being realistic as well. Like there's no way we're building fields in 2021. But that's kind of how I see it proceeding. And then the other thing was we've talked about, I think Portia mentioned it quite a bit, that, doing nothing isn't an option, right? Like we can't just not do anything. We're going to be spending money one way or the other. We're either spending money to just kind of keep patching the fields that we have, and it's going to spend a good amount of money. When you look at Fitch and what the football field needs, what the baseball field is going to need, what the track resurfacing is going to need, you're spending a good amount of money at some point in the next 5 to 10 years. Just to maintain the viability of what we do have. We're going to be spending more money, but
Chad, if I can just copy there, the existing fields to be viable. I don't know if viable is the right word there.
Good. What do you want to use?
I'm just thinking, just to, kind of maintain what we have. To maintain a shortage, it's going to cost us a lot just to maintain the shortage. That's it.
So when I first typed it in, I typed in, blah, blah, for existing fields to be maintained. But then as I read it, it sounds like that's just a maintenance budget, right? Like it's not a maintenance budget. It's a construction project has to happen. So that's why I put viable, but I agree. I don't like the word viable at all, but I think it's, so anybody have any recommendations? To me, it's more than maintenance. It's not just the cost of mowing and seeding, because we're going to have to renovate some of the facilities that we have. It's not maintenance at the football field.
And it as simple as existing fields need capital investment just to just to allow us to continue to use them. That's
Usable.
Existing fields to be usable. Yeah, need capital investment just to be usable.
You might want to throw the word safety in there somewhere. I don't know, or
To be safely usable.
safely, I don't know, but some of those areas are becoming unsafe to use.
so, yeah.
Maintain safe use. Maintain safe use.
So that's capital investment to make the fields usable, but that does not develop any new facilities to meet the unmet needs. So I mean,
Right.
that's just like we have to spend money just to keep the crappy stuff we have working.
First, I thought nobody was listening to me. Then I realized I've been talking on mute this whole time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but what I just said was, why do we have to use one word, viable, or how about safe, compliant, and usable? All three words. Not necessarily in that order.
Safe, compliant, and usable.
usable, safe, and compliant, something,
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
I'm not on mute anymore, right?
Yeah,
Nope, I can
You're-
hear
you're
you.
good.
start it again. I think I can mute you, Vin, from here.
And then what we're kind of recommending is we spend a little more money, and then we get safe, equitable fields, and we get the economic value out of them. Do we want to put any more labels on that?
Community pride. Quality of life. I think it's, it's not only economic value, but it's also development. I mean, this, you have facilities that are going to drive economic development. You're going to have people that want to come to Groton to live because they love the fields that are there. So, yeah, I think it's.
So what should our final, are we good with this being the final slide, or do we need to have a better summary or put the list of fields back up again? Or is there a,
I'm not sure it should be the ending slide, but I think we should have a slide of the people who are on the committee to see I mean, I know that they named them, but I think it would be good to see that, there's a good slice of every corner, including, board of it, like high school, like the athletic director from the high, like there's people on there who really know what's going on and what their connection is. And I think it's important for them to realize that it's a good cross section. It should be up there. Either at the end or the beginning.
How about a picture of the kids in the groups that are going to be using the fields? No, like pictures of high school kids, pictures of community softball teams or whatever, like some kind of to show that it's for everybody and not just, I don't know.
for the final slide?
Yeah, that it's benefiting all these different organizations.
So I think, Vin, I think that's a great idea, but it's awfully tough for Chad to do that. So
Okay.
what it would require is all of us to, and I'll even volunteer for it, email me your pictures of people enjoying top quality athletic fields, and hopefully they're wearing a Fitch Falcons uniform or they're at one of our, Groton parks or something like that. That's what I would want to use. So like I say, I don't think Chad's probably got a library of photos just sitting there. So he's going to need our help to do that. So like I say, I'll volunteer. You can send them to me. I'll, crop them. I'll do whatever and send them on to Chad in a organized way to kind of take that off his plate.
What about also maybe having some kind of quote we can find about
was thinking-
playing fields and the quality of life in the town? Or, maybe we can, I'm sure if we scour the internet, we could probably find a quote from something that, ties everything together, that it's not just for the athletes, it's not just for the students. It really adds to the quality of life of a town and, draws people. And I think part of that is seen in I think the pictures from other towns, really say a lot. The suggestion to put them in by you guys was perfect. And it, when you're comparing town to town and you're looking at what other towns have to what we have, like I said, I'm sure we could find some kind of quote that ties it all together and makes it more of a whole town thing, not just about the athletes or about the school teams and that kind of thing.
So I guess I'll volunteer for that too. If you're emailing me your photos, email me your, what some famous person said, or
Yeah, I'll find a quote. I'll send something to you. I'm sure I can find something. I'll find something.
How about the, our discussion on construction sequence?
Yeah, so it's good. I literally just wrote down the phases at the same time while Bruce was talking. I was like, oh, that was, we talked about it, we voted on it. And my thought was that the way I have them listed right there on that slide was in the same order that we had talked about it from a phasing priority. So the question would be, do we want to publicly make that, do we want to tell them that at this meeting, that this would be our hierarchy? And the only reason I'm a little bit hesitant, 2 weeks ago, I was absolutely, let's do it like that. But, in the last 2 weeks, I've heard some rumblings about, Claude Chester and possible some economic development that might be able to have, so what happens if one of these, if that property wants to get developed first, are we going to turn it down? But I still think we can say, we imagine it to be, in a perfect world, the phasing of it could go Fitch, Sutton, Claude Chester. It could also go Fitch, Claude Chester, Sutton. It could go, but I listed them here because that was the order we kind of had voted on. And then it's just a matter of how much we want to call attention to it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's something that we maybe have in our back pocket. I don't think we need to advertise it, but because I think we all agreed that we didn't kind of all of these. We didn't want to come back next year and say, okay, you gave us those. Now we got to fight for the next one. We wanted everybody to see this as an entire project, but that was the takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I could mention it while I'm on this slide that we could imagine, the phasing could go property by property on something along this order, and at least then we've talked about it. And obviously, as things change, even at the high school, that's going to have to be phased as well. I would imagine. I just can't imagine you actually do all those brand new fields all at the exact same time. Just because even where we do multiple fields, one gets finished before another, right? So you might have access to one for 6 months before you get access to some of the others, just because of a construction sequence. So, but I'll make a note as I talk about it to talk that's the phasing as well.
So then maybe the last slide again is kind of a collage of people on fields.
Yep, I like it.
And kind of a quote if we can find one that kind of wraps it up.
Does anybody else want to have, is there something that we haven't said that we need to say? Is there somebody else that wants to interject and either present one of the slides or more of the slides or some of their own information alongside a slide?
I think, and I hope Frank can hear me. I think.
Yeah, I'm back on the video. I got you.
So I'm going to hang up now. Then.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well, maybe you did, maybe I did hang up.
I hung up. Yes, I got back in.
All right. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm sitting here holding my phone but yeah, Frank, I think you're the chairman of this task force, and I think at least Bruce's suggestion, and I don't know if you heard him, but he said, we ought to have a list of people who are on the task force. Maybe to, just to start out the presentation, here's the task force, here's who we are, here's who we represent. I'm the chairman, been at all these meetings and we've talked about this, and, now I'm going to introduce Chad and he can go through the presentation. That to me makes a lot of sense. I don't know that having people take particular slides unless there's a really good reason to do that. It just gets to be, maybe a little more confusing, I think, for the town council to kind of, be tennis balling back and now. So I think we want to be careful with that. But that being said, if there is somebody who, if a particular question gets asked, I think everybody on the task force should be there in attendance if we can do that, and be prepared to respond to a particular question from a council member or a board member. So, I don't know about doing the slides, but I do think being there and being prepared is necessary.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I can do that. But I think you're right. I think Chad being the spokesman and just continuing through the whole thing is probably the best way to go. I'll put some words together and send them to the gang. There'll be few words.
That's good because right now the slide deck, I feel like there's way too many words. I hate having slides, slide after slide after slide of bullets drives me nuts, but. that's where we're at.
But like you said, I think the history part will go quickly. This is where how that's going to be bang bang bang. And if somewhere you can throw in another picture, that same picture again of the bleachers somewhere else in the end, this is where we are today. Because that's all you need to see. That is like
Ancient.
terrible.
That's-
Where's Portia?
Frank, I was going to look for a black and white photo of you competing on the pitch track and the same track that's there now, and that might do it too.
Yeah, awesome.
That's what we need. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That no one needs that. No one needs that.
I think we need I think we need some Coach Costa pictures from many, many years ago out there as well.
Yeah. Well, the other part is I could get pictures of Frank's sons and we could show multi-generational. I mean, that's how old we're talking these things.
Very, very true. Very true.
All right, so what I can do is I've got a long list of little changes, so I'll try to make sure I'll go through, do my best to make sure I get them all done. I'll send out a new PDF so everybody can kind of look over it again. And then maybe if anybody has further comment, do you want to just email back and kind of, with any suggestions, markups, whatever, then I can do a final kind of pull it together right before the town council meeting.
Yeah, and I think the unfortunate thing here is that we can't all take a vote in favor of the presentation, but I think by consensus, it's the best we're going to be able to do is, forward with what we've done here tonight.
I agree.
Do we, never mind. What was the date of the town council meeting? January what? Was it 9?
12.
And it's gonna, I assume it's gonna be Zoom like this,
Yeah.
safe to assume?
Yeah, from the couple of town council meetings I've been on lately that have been Zoom, they'll kind of handle administration like behind the scenes. So we'll be on the meeting, we'll be all invited in, and then they can make us, I forget what the correct term is, Jerry, you might know, but they can make it so that we can kind of have some input during our portion and then not during the rest of it, so that we're not, interrupting and whatever's going on. But they kind of turn over some control to us.
Hey, Frank, I think somebody else in the room,
Yeah, I'm good.
I think you've got somebody coming, your audio.
I think.
can definitely hear your
My
background
brother
noise.
had his son.
Is that better now?
And had to work at the Lorelei.
No, we can hear a lot of background
You
noise.
can hear a lot of someone talking.
That'd be my bride.
Same room.
There we go.
Why don't I put myself on mute?
Yeah, probably just mute when you're not talking then, because yeah, we hear a lot of it.
Right. So anything else here, folks? Well, Jim, you're going to make it to work then, I think.
I think so. I'm so excited. Chad, thanks for putting the slides together. I know you put a lot of work into them, so really, really appreciate all the efforts in doing that. So I just wanted to acknowledge all that. Thank you very much.
No problem. No problem. So yeah, I'll try to get this done sooner than later and get it sent out so we all have some time to digest and make any other edits. So.
Sounds good.
All right.
Great.
Have a
That's
good
good.
night.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Good night.
Night.
See you soon.